keeps things more on the candid,
organic,
or better.
Yeah.
So welcome to Bombcast. Brett is with Unique, and somebody that I have admired, especially on your knack for posting. You post about as much, if not more, than we do. So you're active on social.
Yeah, it's
and
become
the product,
a competition, Alex.
Yeah, and the product that you have is, of the more artsy side of things that have always really gotten me interested. That's what's really gotten me passionate about the industry, is that art side of it. Because I can't remember exactly who said it, but the floor is really the fifth wall of the room.
Yeah.
And your eye is automatically drawn to the floor when you're walking in, if nothing else, to keep you from tripping over something, right?
That's right.
And so when that extra pop of color or texture, especially with some of your stuff, then we just decided we're going to do some little shag on the ground, because people talk about shag and they're like, I don't know about it. So I think we're going to put some down under the table and see if we can't.
It becomes a mousetrap.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was dealing with I used to cover Canada for our company for a period of time. And there was a very traditional hand-knotted rug dealer in Toronto. And I went into his showroom. It was prospecting, and I showed him the shag line, and he fell in love. Now, granted, I go in and I have to qualify everybody in my mind, and I thought, well, this is not a person for me.
This hand-knotted rug guy's not going to be shag.
Yeah, and that's basically where I got my start in this. So it didn't dawn on me that would even be his customer, and he asked me to come and do a design show. It was basically a mini convention in Toronto, and I did. And we had the shag line in the booth with all of his very traditional hand-knotted rugs. And guess what people came in looking at? The shag. It was a mousetrap. So there's a lot of nostalgia with shag. I mean, you see it decade after decade where it comes and goes, but it's still around. You were not fortunate enough to meet the owner of Unique Carpets when you were visiting our mill, but he just always had a good eye for product. And he had a pretty good instinct about where we needed to go. And we never wanted to be in manufacturing. And you saw our mill, we have quite a few tufting machines there. I was with him along with our vice president, Bob, at our company when we went to Domatex in Germany many years back. And we saw this huge robotic tufter that was tufting basically in the sky, if you will. And it was making these beautiful rugs. And Bob, who is the vice president of our company, who's also a very techy guy, you remember seeing the machine.
Like to dive into the details,
He saw that machine, and Bill said, we're going to own a couple of those machines. And sure enough, we bought some of those machines. And today we're making all kinds of rugs that people don't think of us for. The shag rugs are great, but we also do a lot of pattern, very custom kind of rugs as well. And that's driven by the interior designer and a couple of the sales reps around the country that really get into the hand-holding process. And there's a lot more hand-holding in that type of product.
Yeah. So tell us, how did you get into the business?
Well, I was 21, and I finally decided that I wanted to leave my hometown of Kalamazoo, Michigan, after taking community college courses. And really, I had thought I wanted to go into psychology. Travel and tourism was on the list. And a dear friend of mine went to an art school in Cincinnati, Ohio, and she was in the photography department. And I had been to Cincinnati as a very young person and loved it. And if you're familiar, Kalamazoo, Michigan is a very small town, frankly. And I just decided I wanted to move to the bigger city. So I get into this art program, and you wanted to have experience. So you're a new person here, Andrew, young, high school. When I looked at him, I jokingly said he must be in high school still, and he is. My goodness,
16.
Great. I mean, that's
work permit.
Wonderful. That's wonderful to start and get that kind of experience. But I started off in a wall covering, floor covering, and a paint store, basically. And this is in the day when people were putting wall to wall in. There wasn't a lot of hard surface at all. It was all wall to wall carpet. And I was going through a design program. And my grandmother was into decorating. My mother always had a knack for it. And I just liked the idea of being in the design field. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. I still liked the idea of being a psychologist. And I quickly learned that the skills that are required in business are largely people skills. If you are not a people person, you can't do what I do, what you do. And so I started in a very small wall covering, window treatment, paint store, and we sold carpet. And then from there, after I got my associate's degree in design, I went on to get my bachelor's degree and learned from architects more of a technical side. But I definitely had more of the artsy-fartsy flair. And if for me to be a kitchen designer, for example, would never fly. It's just very technical, wouldn't be my thing. But I got into it, and while I was going to school, I left. After I left the art school, I was working on my 4-year and got into a design firm that did everything: residential, commercial, construction, everything. And the guy that I was working for, I remember him asking me in the interview, "Why should I hire you?" And I said, "Well, I can tell you all the things you'd like to hear today, but I said I will commit to you that I want to learn, and I'm a hard worker and I'm a fast learner." And I turned it around and I said, "No, I don't know who you are. Why should I want to work for you?" So he got up and he walked out of the room, and the two gals that were sitting in the interview said, "You're hired." And that was history. I worked for a firm that did historic work, restaurants, opera houses, and I learned a lot about carpet. We sold every kind of carpet, from commercial to residential to wovens, Axminsters, funeral homes, high-end residential, very high-end work. And after working for this person who was extremely talented and very difficult to work for, I happened to be working on a job with a very large attorney. And we were in a rug showroom, and I fell in love with the ladies that worked there because they were actually having fun. And I didn't know what that was like. I worked for a design firm where each day you were in fear of what the mood would be. And so I realized that I wanted to enjoy what I was doing. And that is, fast forward, the beauty of what I do for Unique Carpets 20-some years later. Every day I wake up and I love what I do. And I'm really blessed to be able to say that there's a lot of people out there that are in jobs that are not happy. And I think that's sad. I don't have kids. I don't have a family to support. So I have the luxury, but I've been with a company that writes the big checks, and they're happy to do it. You know, when they're writing the big commission check, they know their people are successful and they're successful. I've never had a late check from my company. And believe me, if there were a late check, I'd be on the phone. So that's a great company to work for. I've had a few hiccups along the way before working for this company, and learned how I would never treat the people that work with me. And so I'm lucky that people that I work for are family. You've met most of them. And even in customer service, I don't know if I ever told you this, the head of customer service, her mom works in customer service and her sister works in customer service. So you've got that dynamic going on too. We hope that we never tick one of them off, because all three of them will be gone.
You lose the whole county staff, yeah.
You're going to be getting a voicemail. So our company was started, I think you heard the story, on a 3x5 business card. That was the business plan. And we still look at things as kind of a whole house carpet company. But the owner of Unique Carpets never cared much for the carpet industry as a whole. He was much into design. And we were very much into the interior fashion versus carpet aspect of the business. So
really what the carpet would add, not necessarily the function of it.
Yeah.
Well, the function of it's important, but
yeah,
what it was really going to add to the final product, not just the fact that I need carpet or need some flooring, right?
That's right. And our name is not just some of the funky products that we do, Unique Carpets. When you call our mill, you don't get a voicemail. You get a person. And Bill Graves, who started the company in 1985, realized, after working for many companies over in the industry as a sales manager, etc., is that that some of the most important people were the ones that were in customer service. The customer service gals not only support what we do, but they are the relationship that our customer base has, especially in the more rural areas, if you will. You know, I came from Michigan, where if we saw a rep twice a year, we were pretty happy. And I couldn't survive in this territory if I came in and saw you twice a year. You'd wonder what the heck I'm doing. And but so those voices in customer service were huge. And so the unique aspect of our company is the service, and then the ability to deliver what we show. Now, we're in a day and age now where we're struggling because of all of the unfortunate aspects of importing, getting things through the port, and that's everything. Yesterday, I was looking to buy some stones for my landscape, and the gal, I could tell she was leading into the conversation how long it was going to take, and she really didn't know when she was going to get it. And I just said, I don't care. I know that's what I want, and I'm happy to wait for it. I don't think I probably would have felt the same way a little over a year ago. But after dealing with so many delays, and the fact of the matter is that the hardest thing of being a rep right now is that we can't really give you answers. And that's the most important thing, Rep 101, is being able to give answers to our customers. We don't know. And that's
because because you guys are making everything, literally making everything right in LA.
Well, we make
right?
a lot, but almost 70% of our business is import coming from Europe. So our suppliers are good, but granted, they're dealing with delays in getting yarns. In some cases, they have fewer people. So just getting it through the ports is difficult. But this is systemic. I mean, this has been a pernicious problem for years. The chassis shortage in the ports, and then just the what workers want to be paid. It's hard to get people to work when you're going to pay them. Unemployment in Georgia, for example, are we going to get these people to come back to the plant? Well, if they're not making X number of dollars per hour and they can make it on unemployment, they're not coming back. So we're seeing those problems with our nylon, getting the yarns out of Georgia, for example. So for our nylon side of the business, when we used to quote 5 to 7 working days, we could be quoting 3 to 5 weeks. That's nuts. So we're in a very unusual time. And so going back to that 3x5 business card, we deliver what we show. It's been a little challenging, and I think it's been challenging for all of the reps and you as a store owner and the salespeople in your store. When you're working on sales commission and you close a job, you don't get paid until it gets installed. So, and we know that we don't get paid as reps until that order ships. So it's a challenging part of the industry. I work very hard on maintaining those relationships, and I don't take them for granted. And when I get a little bit too big for my britches, if you will, there's always a scenario that comes up that brings me back down to earth. And you know what I'm talking about. You get a call from someone, and the reality is that if we can't deliver and we gave an approximate date, it's hard because I know they have to push their crews to something else, and their customer is upset.
It's a domino effect, right?
Oh,
everybody gets affected.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I got into this by accident. I was in a rug showroom, I started to say. We were working with a big attorney. The gals were having fun, and I was working with in a firm that was just an unhappy place. And they sold very high-end hand-knotted rugs and woven carpets, very high-end carpets, period. And I just knew that it was time for a change, and they were actually looking for someone. And through my contacts, I knew someone who was very close to those two ladies, and she got me in. And I worked in that until I finished college for a couple years. And then I realized that I wanted to move back to my home base, closer to family. But I stayed in it. I worked for a design center that had everything, furniture, fabrics, and floor coverings. So I've worked in the floor covering industry for basically 30 years. And in your shoes, in the salesperson's shoes and as a rep. And the rep is just, it's different every day. You know, I go back saying I was interested in psychology. Well, you know, my goodness, dealing with people, you know, there are just so many different personalities. Some are wonderful and some are difficult. And I think the difficult ones are the most interesting in many ways. So.
Awesome. Do you see yourself staying in the industry for the rest of your career? How do you see it kind of evolving?
You know,
I mean, it's clearly and I don't know if you guys have always had the shag stuff coming back, but I mean, being that I'm new in the industry, I start seeing it coming back. I don't know if it's coming back or if you guys always had it, but it seems like a new promotional type product that you're putting out there. So are we going back in time? As they say, history repeats itself. Are we going back to where that's going to be?
You know, I think shag was very big in the 70s. You remember your mom would rake the carpet. It was golden, green, or orange and whatever colors. I remember Mom would rake the carpet before I was on the little yellow school bus. You know, this was the Brady Bunch era. And it was a very nostalgic thing at the time, but that was the trend. And, you know, and then Reagan came into office in the 80s and it died. And then in the 90s, it came back in and it was very popular. So it's been a cyclical thing, just like everything. We never are drawn to product necessarily for price point. We have a whole gathering of products that are certainly more of an entry-level price point. But at the end of the day, there are products in our line that are there because we need people to look at us as a small family-owned company. So, you know, we used to be at Surfaces. In 2009 was the last year in Las Vegas, the floor covering show. We were in the front of the convention, and part of that was because Bill Graves, the owner of Unique, for a time, all of the wool people were spread out amongst everybody. And Bill Graves said, that's silly, why don't we put all of the wool people together? And he spearheaded that, and everybody came together in the front of the convention center when it was still at the Sands Expo in Las Vegas. And we got, you know, front billing, if you will. We were front of the house when you walked through that door when it was 9 o'clock and all of the attendees walked through the door. We were right up front. And so we had to have a mousetrap because at the end of the day, as you know, we sell a lot of beige carpet and we focus on texture. We're still a whole house company. So one year we had a sample in the front of the booth that was, as you walked into the convention center, you could see it was called Big Orange. And a good client came up and she said, I love Big Orange, but what happened to Big Beige? so, you know, we had no plans to introduce that product. You know, it was definitely there for the eye candy. Let's get them in the booth. But the shag thing really happened very organically. Bill was, I don't recall where, but he saw the shag product, Aurora Borealis, the one that you like, and he wanted to buy it. And the supplier, after he found out what the response level was at Surface, he says, I'll never be able to keep up with your volume. And so we flew our guys over from our factory to their European facility, and they learned how to make the product, and we bought the yarn from them. And then Bob, the vice president of the company, who has a pretty good knack for figuring out how to make things better and less expensive, figured out how to automate it. And
isn't that the real thing of a small business, right?
Absolutely.
Somebody can't do it, so I got to be able to figure out how to do it myself.
Yeah, and we did. And he made a better product and made it faster and cheaper. And the quality is bar none by far, and I'm saying this, I'm unanimous in this, haha. It's really one of the best quality shags out there. Bill is the owner of Unique, is very particular on the yarns that we use. You had Steve Brick here yesterday, a yarn guy. He was also that way. I mean, the yarns that he used in the broadloom that they offered was the best quality. And so we're not going to gain a reputation with problems. We're going to gain a reputation for quality. Oh my goodness!
So speaking of being candid, so this is no.
Is this a surprise?
You're gonna join us.
Is this a surprise?
I know you're on your way to tennis.
How are you, man? Good to see you.
So Ron Codron is just now swooping in for a hello on the Bombcast with Brett.
I'm wonderful. Nice to see you.
Great to see you. Fabulous.
Every time I walk in the door, I can hear your voice. And it's rare that it was yelling.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We had
good.
Steve Brick here yesterday for 2 hours from Hibernia.
Oh, lovely.
And we had a great PK with him. And he spoke of you, knew of you, and to have, Brett here today, and then have you actually come back in today. It's like, this industry, like we were talking about in the beginning, is so tightly connected.
This is the bad thing of the industry, is watching some of our favorite people move on to better things. A
but
younger wife and more fun.
Yes, yeah. So I'm feeling younger myself, as a matter of fact, just by association.
Well, you're looking good.
We're hiking. She's playing a lot of tennis with me. We just did glamping the other day, as I told you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Which was this beautiful, rented out, took a year to get, actually. That's how behind they were. It's a tree house in the Santa Cruz Redwood Forest Mountains.
Cool.
And it's in the middle of nowhere.
How big is the tree house?
Well, let me put it this way. As big as it was, it was small. And it was made smaller by the fact there were two giant redwoods inside of the home. Yeah. One in the bathroom, which was small, and one in the rest of the glamping tree house was one room. You had the bed, you had the kitchen, everything in one room with a redwood tree in the middle.
That's crazy. I love it. I hope you took pictures.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to show. And we brought our little border doodle puppy that we have now, 7 months old. And she had a ball.
That's wonderful.
Fantastic.
Hasn't he done a wonderful job here?
As we said the last time that we recorded together, as I said, I'm just blown away by what you have done with this.
A huge compliment yesterday. I was telling Brett about it. Steve Brick and his partner Jim were here, and when he left, he said he left me a lengthy voicemail, and he said, "You know what? We talked about how great it was to have the opportunity to come speak to you guys. We had the whole staff, and he said if showrooms and staff were like yours, we'd have sold a lot more carpet." That's what he said. So I took that as a huge compliment. It was great having him here. Talk so much about the wool carpet product. Learn more about it than.
Well, you know who got me into wool?
For sure.
Chuck McMation, the owner of Abbey Store in San Francisco, the oldest of all of the stores, the first one.
Wonderful.
He actually grabbed me, and I hung on kicking and screaming, and he put me into wool. This is back in 74, 75. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And then after that was natural. Now, Kevin, you've taken it to a whole another level, and Brett can testify to that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We're trying really hard. We hope it's going to be even better. I feel like we're just getting started.
Kevin came down to the mill.
We were down at the mill.
It's one of the very few mill tours that I've done. Actually, it's probably maybe one of two of clients coming down to the mill and looking. We don't invite a lot of people in, but I was excited to have Kevin come down, and it was great.
I never did it, so that's one up on me. I wish I had.
It was what's really funny, and I'm going to say it. So I went to his first, and then we went to Fabrica.
Yes.
And really, we were going down to Fabrica. That was the initial thing. Love the product. It's obviously one of our favorite. We have it on the showroom floor, and it's a much bigger facility. But
you better edit this part.
You guys, the little mill, and we've been talking about. No, it's okay. It's like those guys are great, but these guys stole the show. I mean, when we went to I had no preconceived idea of what it was going to look like. the mill tour itself, the way that they go about it. I mean, you said it right before Ron got here, how you guys got into the whole shag thing or that style. They were like, somebody else at Surfaces said they couldn't do it, so they said, well, we're going to fly a bunch of our people to your place so they can learn how to do it, and we're going to do it ourselves.
This rug on the floor here.
Yeah.
This is one of the products that we make here, Ron.
So that's the true entrepreneurial, style of a small business, which, you guys are a big
You couldn't have bought this business from a better person. I mean this sincerely. This is a gem.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brett.
I adored working with Ron, and as I started saying, it's the negative about the business. I always hate seeing people go away. Chuck, he mentioned Jack Benny. I used to call Chuck.
Yeah. I'm thinking.
I got to tell you something or something like that. I love Chuck, but he truly was one of the wool people, but it's the epitome of a salesman. And this one too, the customer walks in and it's lights on, stage, camera, action. I mean, this is the epitome of a salesman, that charm. You could bottle that. Unfortunately, there's just, there's few of these guys around anymore.
Well, thank you. With Chuck, when I actually, going back to my college years at Auburn University, and then I was in ROTC, and so I had to do my training, my officer's training. They sent me to Idaho, and my parents, my dad, who was a career pilot, and my mom retired in Sacramento, where they have the Mather Air Force Base, and he had commissary and BX medical privileges. They did, and so I came this way, and of course the very first Abbey store, and the creator of Abbey, Milt Levison, had it on Franklin Boulevard in Sacramento. That's where it was, and so I was only going to be in training camp for about a month, but I had 3 months to kill because it was summer vacation. So I stayed with my parents, and my dad had got me a job because he was a bridge player. Milt Levison, the creator of Abbey, was a bridge player, and Milt hired me for those other 2 months, and I was his gopher, okay? And that's where I didn't meet at the moment, but heard of Chuck McMation. He was working just had taken over the Abbey store in San Francisco, which was the first store that was franchised. Let's put it that way. Milt had the company store in Franklin, on Franklin Street in Sacramento. So that's where I heard of Chuck. And Chuck was a legend before he even started. And so they actually did a video of him. Okay.
I remember hearing.
Do you remember this about this video?
Yeah.
I'm sure I've told you. And I mean, my mouth just dropped when I saw it. People would come into the store at Franklin Boulevard, and he'd sit them on rolls. They had rolls of carpeting, just back rolled. And so you could sit on a roll of carpet, any one of hundreds. And, well, Chuck had this affinity to say yes to everything that the customer asked. Well, can I get this soon? Oh, yes. Can I get it tomorrow? Oh, sure. Is it stain resistant? Oh, yeah. He said, if you've dropped something on it or any spill, you could just lift it up and it'll roll right off of it. Well, I never had that kind of chutzpah. I know, I never did.
You should have had my initials BS.
So but I was just, my mouth dropped because, it was just amazing how he handled the customer, and they loved him.
To the end.
Yeah.
I didn't know Chuck's health issues at the end there, but I would say within the last 6 months, I recall seeing him, and at that point it was time. I mean, he knew it was time to hang his hat up and retire, and I don't think he would have, but he still got up like a little kid. It was like a game. It was, and the enthusiasm, and for someone like me, I just love seeing that when I do a product knowledge session with a new salesperson. You just know it's like an interview. You just know when they're going to be good. And that's why I always say to that salesperson, if you give it time, be patient. You're going to be wonderful if you really like this, and you're going to be happy doing it.
And that's what you said. If you like it, and he loved it.
Loved it.
He still misses it.
Yeah,
It's the rush. I don't care. 50 years later, he would get a rush when a customer would come in, and just light up, and therefore light up the room. And you can't fool the customer. They know it if you're enjoying.
He was fun to sell to. It was like a flea market. I learned that from my grandparents, my grandfather would haggle a little bit with the flea market dealers when I was very young. So I watched it very young, and when I would sell something to him, oh, he loved to haggle.
Oh, yeah.
I stopped speaking English at one point, I think.
Well, at conventions, if I had a tough negotiation, I'd just call him in, and I'd stand in the corner, and he'd negotiate for me. But, and our relationship hasn't and never will end. We just had dinner with Janine and Chuck in their home in Napa, Silverado, this Saturday. And he's looking good.
Good.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Wow, what a pleasure to have Ron stop in. The day opened up great with Brett being here. Thanks for.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh gosh!
But it was like the cherry on top. It was perfect.
Thank you.
A great way to end it. Thanks very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Anytime, you're always welcome. Ron comes in all the time, so he's never really gotten out of the business. So he's in all the time, and people ask for him. So
I just love coming in to see this incredibly beautiful showroom that you created. It is. I'm sure Brett sees a lot of showrooms. I think it's the most beautiful one I have seen in the entire Bay Area.
Well, it's one of the. Well, I think it's probably the biggest transformation. And no negative towards you, but I mean it's just a whole different.
Oh, I'm proud of him.
Yeah, we took it on to the next.